What is up, Sheepdog Nation? I wanted to come. I usually don't do this. I usually don't make another introduction. But for this guest that we have on today, it is definitely needed. You're going to be getting to listen to a sheriff and about so many things. And while I respected Sheriff Mark Lamb prior to our conversation, after talking with him, I felt so lit up. I felt like, yes, we need more leaders like him. He's a progressive leader. He is very big on taking care of his people. He's huge about, letting the media and the community see what's going on inside of his jails, and he allows his sheriff's department to be on live PD. He actually was an entrepreneur prior to being a cop, which I love. And talking to him about his leadership philosophies made my day. So I know that you guys are going to be just as excited to listen to him as I am. I also have a couple of announcements I wanted to make. First announcement, Sheriff Mark Lamb is going to be, he agreed to be coming back on to the show as kind of like a fixed figure, meaning he's going to be able to pop onto the show once or twice a month to just be able to talk with me about whatever's going on, whatever's in the news, whatever you guys send into me and are like, I want to know what Sheriff Mark has to say about blah, 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 just to have a perspective from, a department head so that, we can continuously try to thicken the blue line. Let's hear what the patrol officers have to say. Let's hear what a department head has to say. It's going to be awesome. The second announcement is this: the Sheepdog family group that's open. We have our first call together on Sunday. If you are like, okay, what is that? Then you need to click the link in my bio. It is a revolutionary. It's a leadership group. It's a group to thicken the blue line. It's a private Leo only group, completely off all social media, and you need to check it out because at the end of the day, let's be honest, I want to help you out before you get stuck in a rut. I want to help you out while you're trying to progress through your agency, while you're trying to get, you're trying to get places. You're fresh, or maybe you're not fresh and you're like, I definitely need to gain some perspective. I need something to, kind of waken me up. This is the group. Okay. Without further ado, click the link in my bio, further information of that. Everything that you want to know about Sheriff Mark to go contact with him, it's going to be in the show notes, and enjoy.
Welcome to Sheepdog Nation podcast, the only place on the internet where law enforcement and their families can come to be understood, supported, and stood up for. Here's your host, the always entertaining, down-to-earth, yet in-your-face truth speaker and Leo herself, Autumn Schmidt.
What is up, Sheepdog Nation? Welcome to another podcast of Sheepdog Nation with your host, me, Autumn Schmidt. I'm really excited to have you here as always. We have a very cool interview. We are actually chatting to a sheriff. His name is Sheriff Lamb. He is the American Sheriff on Instagram. And he's really cool. He's down in Arizona. You're going to get to listen to his Southern accent. We were just discussing prior to me pressing record how cold it is in Maine compared to his winters down in Arizona and what he thinks is cold. So I'm really excited to chat with him and introduce him to you. Good morning, Sheriff. How are you?
Good morning, Autumn. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. I'm excited to have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
That's a tough question all the time but I'm not an Arizona native. My dad's an Arizona native. I actually was born and raised in Hawaii.
Oh my goodness.
I grew up in different places, Panama, Philippines, Argentina. But I consider myself an Arizonan. Went to high school here and got into law enforcement actually late in life. I didn't ever even think about being a cop until I was 34. I went on a ride along and I was hooked.
Wow. Where'd you go on a ride along?
So we have Indian reservations out here, and one of the Indian reservations right next to Mesa and Tempe, or Mesa and Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. I went on a ride along there, and we had a hell of a time that night. We looked for a guy that was running from us, and I found him in an abandoned trailer, and I'm just a ride along, and I came home that morning and told my wife, I said, I'm going to be a cop. This was fun. I like this.
Yeah. And what was her reaction?
She's very supportive. My wife is awesome. And so she just was like, okay, let's do it. You know, we had 5 kids. I was self-employed. So honestly, the idea of insurance and a steady paycheck, even though you might make less, it's a steady paycheck. That was obviously something that she liked.
Yeah, absolutely. No, do you mind me asking what you used to do as far as being self-employed?
I've always been in like sales and marketing, but I've had landscape companies, pest control companies. I considered myself a sales and marketing guy. So anytime you're in sales and marketing, you have to be able to flow with whatever product is marketable.
You know, and it's funny because I got to tell you that I really truly believe that cops make some of the best entrepreneurs and vice versa.
They do.
We have to deal with some of the same stuff. So that's awesome. So,
and we're salesmen too in police work. You know, you're selling tickets, you're selling, people into handcuffs. There's just those skills became very handy when I got into police work.
Absolutely. Now, can you tell me how you worked your way up to becoming the sheriff?
I just decided one day I wanted to be the sheriff. And I decided, it was in 2011, I was on the gang and drug unit out of Salt River, and I had a great job. It was a great position. And I just decided that day I wanted to run for sheriff. And so I took a huge pay cut to come out to the county where I'm the sheriff at now. I worked out here for a couple of years, and then I left so that I could run for sheriff. So it was just something that I knew I wanted to do more, and I'm constantly pushing myself to be the best me. I don't really compete with others. I do want to work harder than you, but I just want to be the best me. I don't really aspire to be anybody else other than just be the best me I can be.
That's great. That's a really good mindset. And so what's it like being a sheriff?
You know, I love it. I love it. It's great. You know, how many times as an officer have you said, man, if I was in charge, I would do this or this. And it kind of took us a little bit because my chief deputy was a lieutenant, and my chief over the law enforcement was a sergeant. Those are the guys that I promoted into. And I actually promoted 2 sergeants into chief positions. One wasn't from the agency. And then I promoted a lieutenant into the chief deputy position. And so we all had a cop mindset. And so it was kind of weird to show up. And it took us months where we're like, wait a second, we're in charge. So if we want to make that decision, we can just do it. And that part was a little weird, but it's good because you can run the agency how you see fit. There's negatives to it, but I'm not a real negative guy. I think everything's a positive. So even the things that people would view as being hard or the bad parts of the job, I just see them as just challenges that make you better.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, are you in charge of a jail down there as well?
Yeah. So we have 220 sworn deputies.
Wow.
We have 180 sworn or 80 detention officers. They're not sworn. I have 500 employees total, and or a little over 500. And with volunteers, I have close to 700 people that I'm responsible for. We have a 1,500 bed jail, and we are a 287G jail, which means that we actually work with ICE.
Yep.
So.
Wow, that's a lot of people. So how do you keep that straight? You must just have like really good supervisors under you.
You know, you really do. You have to rely on the people that you have underneath you. And I have a really good chief deputy. I have really good chiefs, and we have great captains and lieutenants. They all do a great job to where it allows me to continue to go out and be in the community, and I can get out on the road and work with the guys. And I don't get bogged down with all the minutia of administrative stuff. My guys are really good about handling that stuff.
So, Sheriff, you kind of touched on something that I'd like to ask you is, especially being in, such a leadership position. What can you tell me, like your leadership philosophy or like what you believe is the best way to lead?
I believe you lead from the front and you lead by example. And I have to be willing to do whatever I'm asking my guys to do. And we try to treat this like a family. I mean, there's times where I have to discipline my kids. There's times where I make mistakes and I get chastised, by my people. They tell me, "Hey, Sheriff, that was wrong." But that's the only way to lead, in my opinion. You lead from the front, and that's what we try to do here at the sheriff's office. And we try to have the troop mindset where we're constantly. I have 4 things that every decision we make, we look at these things. What's best for the employee? What's best for the agency? What's best for the county? And what's best for the taxpayer? And they don't go in that order necessarily, but those are the 4 things that we weigh out on every decision we make.
Yeah, that's powerful. And so, what do you look for in a good patrol deputy? So if like somebody was listening to this, they were thinking, okay, I want to go work for him, or I want to go be, a cop. What do you look for as a sheriff?
I want people that see the humanity of the job. We're in a day and age where it's changing. You have to be able to walk into a situation and you have to be able to understand not just what happened, what crime has occurred, but I want them to look into what precipitated that crime. What else are you going through in your life to put you in this situation? Don't get me wrong. I'm tough on crime. I know it. I'm as conservative as they come, but at the same time, everybody we deal with is a person. There's very few hardcore criminals out there, the bad guys. Most people are just normal people that are making mistakes, that are going through tough times in their life. They're making stupid decisions, and now they find themselves dealing with us. But the biggest thing I look for is hard work. There's guys that could be great cops. They just don't work hard. And hard work is truly what I admire the most.
Okay, so would you define what in a police officer, what's a hard work? Like what's hard work? What would you say?
I want guys that show up, that don't run from calls. Like you can see the guys, we're not stupid. We can see which guys are out in their calls and they're backing guys up, and they show up on scene. And they're like, "Hey man, what can I do? What can I do to help?" And they're trying to perfect their craft. That's one thing that we're in a job where the harder you work, going out, find trainings that are going to make you better, just perfect your craft. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a believer in trying to be the best you can be. And if you're a patrol deputy and you like DUIs, then go out and find trainings and go get DUIs and work DUI details and do those things and become great at what you want. Perfect your craft. And that's the people that you want to promote, because those are the people that are going to, when you become a lieutenant, they're going to perfect their craft as a lieutenant. Or when they become a captain, they're going to perfect their craft as a captain.
That's really good. That's such a good point. And so now let me ask you this. You kind of said it, but I just want to see, would you encourage a new officer to kind of, not brand new officer, but, a couple years on, would you encourage them to like niche down as far as like what it is that they want to do? And do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I agree. Yes, yes, you should. So when I got into law enforcement, I thought, I want to be a range deputy. I want to go out, and the reservation I worked at was right next to Mesa and Tempe, but it also had some rural area to it where it had, Mesa and Scottsdale, but it had a rural area where there was wild horses and all that. And I thought, I want to be a range deputy. Well, I got on there and started working, and I realized real quick that I was passionate about gangs and drugs. And I started working hard. I worked any extra shifts I could get on there. When there was when they were out looking for somebody, or I had seen that the day shift had a crime occur, and they were still out looking for somebody, I would try to go find those guys. And I think that you've got to find what you're passionate about, and once you do, become great at it. It's good to be well-rounded, and you should always look at ways you can better your skills on a well-rounded perspective, but you should also find what you are passionate about and go after it. Now, you're not going to know that when you're going through the process of becoming a police officer, but a year or two into being a police officer, you should start to have a good idea of what you like and what you're passionate about.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And just to reiterate, would you say that would make you, like, depending on like how much effort and how well-rounded of an officer you are, but on top of being niched down and having a specialty, something that you're very highly trained in, which clearly shows, like you said, you're motivated. And would you agree that would help you get promoted, or at least be looked at for promotions?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, we as leaders, we see those people. We see the guys that are trying to be really good at what they do. And those are the people we're looking forward to promote. Now, when I came in, our agency was kind of a good old boy thing, had a little bit of, and so a lot of them didn't trust the process. So I actually changed it, and I'm not sure that I actually love it, but I changed it to where we go off of the highest score. So if you test and you're the sergeant with the highest score, we make the list at the very end, and you know where you're at on that list, and you know when you're going to get promoted. If a spot opens up, then you'll get promoted. So that's not necessarily the way I would have liked to have done it, but it was what was needed. And that's one thing as a leader, you've got to realize you've got to be flexible, because there's things that you want to do, but there's also things that are best practices. What's best for the agency? What's best for the employees? And they don't always line up. So you have to be flexible, and you have to be willing to make some sacrifices here and there for the betterment of the agency.
Yep, absolutely. I really like that. And I appreciate you saying that. And, and whether you like that system or not, I mean, it honestly kind of sounds like it takes out, like removes a lot of like the personal, biases that could come in, which is definitely, a really good thing in police work. So,
it does. It does remove those personal biases. And the other thing that it does is it allows you still have a year of they are on a probation for a year here. So you have a year to evaluate those leaders to see if they're going to make it or not. And we have some guys that, just because I may not think they're the best, they might fit. Every guy has a really good fit somewhere. And you've got to find what they fit, where they fit in well. You can't always put them there, but that's another part of leadership, is recognizing the talent and being able to put those people in the areas where they're going to best serve themselves and the agency. And sometimes they don't realize it or know it. But once you put them in that position, then they start to see, oh, you know what? I'm good at this. And even though I didn't want to be here, I'm good at it.
Yep, absolutely. And so what would you say, what do you see in your employees at every level? How would you say that, you've seen, like, how do you see stress affecting them? Do you see stress affecting them? Do you help with that? Do you have any systems, anything like that?
We do, actually. When I came in, and I think everybody sees it, we're starting to see a lot more mental health issues, not just in law enforcement, in general, in the population, but we're not immune from that. We see things, just for example, we had 29 people 29 deaths in our county last month in January. Now, 21 were natural causes. We didn't have any homicides, but you have car accidents. Well, your guys are responding to those nonstop, and that takes its toll on it. You see things that you can't unsee. And so what we've done is we've put in a huge peer support. We have brought in and trained a lot of our employees, not just deputies, but detention officers and civilian employees, on peer support. And what we're trying to do is take away that stigma. For so long as a cop, if you went and asked for help for any mental health issues, you just got blackballed, and you had this, everybody looked at you like a pariah. And we're changing that. We're saying it's okay to come in and ask for help. We understand how taxing the job can be. So we've created this huge peer support. And then some of our more delicate positions like sex crimes or children's crimes, we actually will make them see a psychiatrist every 6 months to evaluate how they're doing, just to make sure that the job is not taking too great a toll on them.
That's powerful. So you definitely are, standing behind your deputies and with the mental health. So I really love that you see it, I think, and that you're actually doing something about it. I mean, as you know, last year we lost at least 158 or 159 officers to just suicide. So it's definitely a real thing. And I think that, and I'd love to hear what your opinion is across the nation. Do you think that we could be doing more to support our officers that way?
Yeah, we could. And, honestly, that's why it would be really easy for me to not do some of the national stuff that I've done. It would be really easy for me to save a couple hours a day, not do as much social media as I do. But I do it because I want people to be exposed to the good things that law enforcement are doing. And I think that in our society is turned on law enforcement in general. And I think that's why a lot of our guys are committing suicide. We still have family problems. We still have problems with bills. And then we have to go out and do the job. And then sometimes you get in trouble at work, and these guys are just, it's hard on them. And so I hope that I can change, if I can change even at least a few people's perception of what we are as law enforcement, and how we're just regular people out trying to protect our communities, then that'll have been those 2 hours or 3 hours a day extra that I have to do for social media and for all these other things will be worth it, because we'll have changed the perception of how people view our profession.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I wanted to touch upon, because it's how I found you, was your social media. And, I don't see very many, police chiefs and sheriffs and colonels that have such a presence on social media as you do. And can you tell me a little bit like how you got into that?
Well, it's the marketing. Honestly, it's the marketing. But, I realized where much is given, much is required. I feel very blessed, and I feel like I started to see that there was an opportunity, like I said, to change how people viewed our profession. And especially out here in Arizona, and especially as a sheriff, the sheriff is a long-standing position in this country that is a unique thing to America. And we have this, I saw an opportunity to really showcase what we as sheriffs do. And then we're also politicians, that's the part we don't like about the job. But the fact of the matter is we're politicians. So we also have an opportunity to talk about issues that are facing our country. For example, border security. You'll see me do a lot of border security stuff, and I don't get political about it. And what I mean by that is I don't say it's one side or the other. I try to talk about border security as Americans, how we should view it as Americans. And that's, I saw the opportunity to be able to talk about a lot of issues, and I didn't shy away from it. There's a lot of great sheriffs out there, and there's a lot of guys doing the same thing. And there's also a lot of sheriffs that aren't doing it, that they just want to keep it, controlled and not put themselves out there. Well, no risk, no reward is my philosophy.
Yep, absolutely. And because you do that too, and you kind of touched upon it, but I really feel like you help other law enforcement officers, and it's kind of this thing. It's like, yes, you are a sheriff, but you're also, before that, you're a cop, and which at some point puts us all in the same playing field. And so I think that I think that's so humbling to see, that you're out there and, you're just a real person showing real life things about the job. So I love that you do that and I appreciate that. But I also think that a lot of other cops super appreciate it too. Um, can you,
And you're putting yourself out there. Like we did live PD and when I'm on there, I'm putting my skill set out there. And, cops were the worst. We're like, oh, look at him. He's turning his gun towards the guy and blah, 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 blah. And, you're putting yourself out there, but I don't care. Frankly, like I'm going to go out and be me. And the one thing that I do when in my job is I'm a huge believer that calmness is power. You don't have to be a badge heavy cop. When I show up on scene, the way you carry yourself sets the tone right away.
Mm-hmm.
So when I show up on scene, I don't have to really yell at people and I don't got to talk tough to them. They know who's in charge just by the way I carry myself onto that scene and the way I'm talking to them. And the calmness regulates that. And so I'm the huge believer that if more cops were to show up and be calm on scene, but carry themselves, it's the old adage, walk softly and carry a big stick.
Mm.
And I hope I don't offend any of the listeners. If they're cops, they won't be offended. Look, I'll be the first to put dick in dirt,
Mm-hmm.
but I also am the first to treat people with dignity and respect. And I let them dictate to a certain point I'm going to give them some latitude to dictate how that call is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be there and I'm going to treat you with respect. But if you start taking it the other way, then I can certainly go the other way as well. Yep.
And I fully agree. And that's, it's something that we talk a lot about on here. And that is, command presence, officers' command presence, and how that really, minimizes a lot of problems. And we talk a lot on here about like the value and the importance of learning how to defend yourself, training jiu-jitsu, boxing, Krav Maga, whatever you want to. What's your opinion on that, Sheriff?
I love it. I'm a huge MMA fan. I'm a huge UFC fan. My schedule's been a little busy, so I haven't been training as much as I would like, but I went through SWAT school and they told me something and it's always stuck to me. And I tell youth this, if I give a talk in church, I talk about it. That old adage of you will rise to the occasion is bullcrap. You won't rise to the occasion. You will only rise to the highest level of your training. And I see video after video of police officers, and I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying I've seen video after video where they have failed to train themselves. They're not physically fit. They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to protect themselves. And I see all too often guys reaching for tools on their belt, which is great. But there's sometimes where you just got to go hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that the reason they don't is because they're not confident in their skill set. They're not confident in their ability to protect themselves. And so they look for other tools to do that with. You have to protect yourself. You have to train. The bad guys training, if you're out fighting gangbangers, those gangbangers, half of them are coming out of prison. They're yoked. They're strong.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting in fights. So you better be doing the same thing, or else, you could become the victim of somebody tougher and stronger than you. They're always out there. You're gonna run into some dudes that are just they're hard to beat. But at the same time, if your skill set is up there, you're going to put yourself in the best position to go home that night.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing that. Now, just because I know some people want to know, can you tell us a little bit about how, how'd you get on live PD and what was your experience with all of that?
They reached out to us when I first became sheriff, but we had so many things and I was brand new in the office. So we had a lot of things we were working on, budget and all that stuff. And so we kind of pushed it aside. And then about 6 to 8 months into it, my first term, we actually reached back out to them and we said, hey, are you still interested? And it escalated real quick. I mean, within a few weeks, they were here, we were doing it. And, it was a great experience for us. It was really good for the county. I think a lot of the people, the residents in our county, took pride on seeing their own agency there. It's been a lot of extra work for me. I don't make any extra money. The agency doesn't make any extra money. And, there was a lot of, we made it completely optional for our deputies. We said, look, if you don't want to be on it, you don't have to be on it. And then we reached out to a few guys. We said, hey, we think you'd be really good. McElwain was really good for live PD, the way he carries himself. He's only got 3 years on, and he did a great job.
Wow. That's impressive. And so, like, how can they go? Can they, like, Google, like, your episodes, or, like, how do they find your episodes?
I don't know. You just have to watch. I think sometimes you can find some of the clips on. They did a top 40, and I think we were on the top 40 a few times. Okay. They always show the reruns. So if you watch live PD, you'll see the reruns. We've been gone now for about 6 months. Okay. So we did another project at the same time. We were doing 60 Days In. They approached us, and that's where we take regular people and we put them in our jail like undercovers. And that's actually airing on A&E right now. It's halfway through the season. I think they aired the 5th episode last night.
Oh my gosh! Like, how long do these people, like, stay in there for?
60 days.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's crazy. They're crazy, but it was good because what we did is we were able to get an in-depth look at our facility with a zero cost to the taxpayer. Yeah,
that's a good way to look at it. I just couldn't imagine wanting to go be there for 60 days.
No. One of them was a cop. One of them was a cop out of Ohio.
No shit.
And he's still a cop. He came in and did it, and he did very well. It was great. I mean, the information we got was super valuable. It was a good experience. It was a lot of work, and it's a lot of work again because now I got to deal with Twitter and all the social media work that comes with it. But yeah, it was a good program.
Yeah, no, that sounds it. That's awesome. And so, Sheriff, just to kind of wrap up, what would your advice for, like, a rookie officer? What would you tell a rookie officer in order for them to have a good career? What would be advice from the sheriff?
My advice would be know who you are and what your skills are, and be comfortable and confident in those skills, and work hard, and have an anchor. That's the biggest thing that I tell all young people coming into this job, young officers. If you want to succeed in this profession, you have to have an anchor. For me, my anchors are my family and my faith, my religion. And you have to have something, whatever it is. If you don't, those are the guys and the girls that are going to suffer. They're going to struggle because there's nothing anchoring them. So when they leave work, they're bringing that home, or they're taking it with them, and it takes its toll on you. So you got to have an anchor in your life. Religion's a great anchor, and you've got to just be confident. Go out and do your job. Don't be scared. Look, we all die. We all die. You can sit on the couch and die eating a bag of chips. But there is nothing more glorious than a warrior's death. So when you put on that uniform and that gun belt, you should only, and this sounds terrible, but you should only be so lucky should you die in the line of duty. And that's a sad thing that we have to face that reality. But the fact of the matter is we're warriors, and we're all going to die at some point. And if you take that mindset into your job, and you're not scared, you want to be cautious. There are times where fear helps you, but fear also can hurt you if you're too scared. So just go out and enjoy the job, enjoy life, come home and enjoy your family. Be a person who loves life and be positive.
Yeah, great advice. And Sheriff, so on your Instagram profile, there's a link in there, and what is it? Like, what do you do? What are you a part of? Or is it your foundation, or what is that?
So like I said earlier, where much is given, much is required. My family and I, we feel very blessed to be able to serve in this position.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I wanted to do something when I became sheriff, and it took me about a year to find the right foundation. So I couldn't believe it was available, americansheriff.com and americansheriff.org. And so I started a foundation, and our mission is to bridge the gap between communities and law enforcement. So we go out and we do service projects. You know, for example, we had a guy on Live PD whose house burnt down, and he lost everything. We went out and we found him a new trailer. He lived in a trailer. We went out and found him a new trailer to live in. We went and bought him clothes. We just had a scholarship dinner with one of the local junior colleges where we raised well over $20,000 for scholarships for these kids.
Wow.
So sometimes, you just need to give back. And on those days where you're a little frustrated with things at work or the politics, I can go out and do service and forget about all that stuff and remember what's important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is there anything that you would like to leave Sheepdog Nation with? Anything that you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
Thank you to anybody that's in law enforcement. Thank you for what you're doing. This is, unfortunately, we don't always hear it enough, how much we're appreciated and what we're doing. And thank you to all those that are doing it and putting on the uniform every day. And thank you to those who support those who are out there doing it every day. It's truly a calling, and it's a blessing that we have people that go out and do that, and they take time away from their family. And so thank you to everybody, those who do it and those who support us.
Well said, Sheriff. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us on your very busy morning. Can you tell everybody how they can come and hang out with you or where to find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at American Sheriff, and then my Instagram for my foundation is American Sheriff Foundation, and then website for the foundation is americansheriff.org. And hopefully, eventually, I'll take this nationwide and get a lot more law enforcement people involved in American Sheriff. And on Twitter, Sheriff Lamb 1, and on Facebook, Sheriff Lamb.
Awesome. And we're going to be putting some of your handles down in the show notes. So Sheepdog Nation, you can just go click there and follow the sheriff as well. Well, thank you so much, Sheriff Lamb, for being here with us. And Sheepdog Nation, I will see you next time.
And that was another episode of Sheepdog Nation. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes and let us know by giving us a rating. If you have questions that you want answered by Autumn in the podcast, submit it by going to the link in the show notes. As always, stay safe and watch your six.